Hello there, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Osun.
Well, back to work. You didn't think the holiday was going to last forever, did you? Well, it's a beautiful Wednesday morning.
And the consequences are upon us already with the traffic
Sounds like
congestion.
bad belly. But hey, you're welcome. I'm Kayode Okikili.
Yeah, good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Kayode. I was just about to say, did I smell sour grapes there? But hey, what do I know? Good morning from the Federal Capital Territory. It's a cloudy day here, but we're here to bring some sunshine your way. I'm Maope Yusuf.
Okay, so quite a number of things playing out at the moment. Well, we do know lots of things happening with security. You remember the jailbreak and how the president did visit the prisons, custodial center, if you will, but still waiting to see what becomes of that visit of the president. But the Minister of Interior, he's finally spoke about some of these matters. We'll just listen to a little bit of what he said in a minute.
We are not vulnerable. There might be issues with motivation. We are not vulnerable. And I want us to be very clear in our mind that if we fail to appreciate the effort of government, it will be too sad. A time was when almost 3/4 of the Northeast was under the siege of the insurgents. That is not the case today. The insurgents do not have a foothold anywhere anymore. So for us to be that successful in combating insurgency, we must expect some fallout. So the fallout is what we are having, and that is what you see when any phenomenon is about to die. It will be in a death throe. So the insurgents and the associated evil companions, the bandits, and the other coward criminals are taking advantage of the fact that the siege in their main theater has weakened and scattered them. So they are desperately looking for relevance. But my assurance to Nigeria is that we are up to it. We are up to it. We are not giving up. We are ready to give them the battle that will totally eliminate them.
What do you guys think?
Well, lots to digest. So you can break it down, really. There's a general security in Nigeria, right? And he's compared that with what we had in the past. And I know there's still the debate, the ongoing debate. Is terrorism over? Has government been able to, what's that word again, decimate Boko Haram totally? And, they will give example of Borno State and how IDPs are returning home gradually and all of that. So there's always that part of the argument, okay? But then there is a insecurity generally in Nigeria, and I'm talking about the banditry, or the terrorism now. Bandits have been called terrorists anyway. The incessant kidnapping. So you can always talk about all of that. But this one, I'll zoom in on this one, which is attacks on custodial centers, okay, the correctional facilities. And if you look at just about how many years ago, just how many prison attacks we have had in this country. And we're zooming in on just custodial centers, not a general insecurity situation, okay, just custodial centers. It is mind-blowing. In fact, this Kuje attack alone is I don't know, for lack of a better term, it is brazen, it is an assault on our nation, Nigeria. The fact that you have Boko Haram, inmates right there. You have people who have terrorism cases and all of that, quite prominent people. So you'd expect that, yes, it's a medium security custodial center, but at least there would be a lot of security in that area. Don't forget, it's not far from the airport, right? It's not far from the airport. So you'd expect that it is well protected. So it wasn't just an attack. It was what you would call a successful attack. I mean, people have detailed how it went on for close to an hour. Some of these, escaped inmates were given some sort of, prep talk, some, debriefing about how to go about life and all of that. So is this a function of people not appreciating what the government has done? Well, I think you would look at this recent attack and you say, this is more of what the government has failed to do. So I don't want us to mix things up. There was an attack. It was a successful attack. It was an attack that even the Minister of Police Affairs says they didn't see it coming. And he actually said that these terrorists brought superior firepower. That, for me, is still mind-blowing. So is this about not appreciating what government has done? I think, for me, it is about what government has failed to do, and that is provide adequate security.
Chamberlain, I'm interested in knowing what you think, but if you want me to come in here, maybe I should. We should think about Kaduna, first of all. Kaduna is supposed to be the garrison city, you know. I mean, we have installations, you know, of army bases in Kaduna, you know, but there's been an attack on the airport in Kaduna, not once, not twice. There's been an attack on the train that is en route through to Kaduna, and we still have, you know, the victims still some of them still in custody of the bandits. There are terrorists roaming freely by the name Ansaro in Kaduna who are providing security for the people, and the people have come to trust them because we'd rather have these ones than have an inefficient security agent from the government. We can think about the attack on the mine in Shiroro, Niger State, you know, during which the soldiers were overpowered, and quite a number of them were killed. If that is not a foothold, I don't know what else we can call a foothold. The nation is at war, and Sheon was only saying recently, Sheon Okibaloye, in a video that is trending on all social media groups now, that the nation is on its knees. But you know what they say about the glass being either half empty or half full right now. So maybe the minister is seeing the half empty part of it. Chamberlain.
Well, you know, it's a longer piece than what we played. I mean, for want of time, that's why we just give you that piece. But if you listen, you can always listen to the longer part, and maybe subsequently we will bring it to you. But if you check our website, you see the longer version of what he said there. But there's several questions bordering on that particular attack. And the thing is, much as he said a lot, depending on how you see some of those things. But questions, why have these attacks been successful over time for the custodial centers? Where was the minister at that point in time when that happened? Did they get intelligence about that or not? Were soldiers moved away from there? If it was routine, were they replaced? If it was routine. The former Minister of Interior did say they told the president at the time why there were no CCTVs, how they needed urgently to address those things. Have they been rectified? When was that? That was several months or years ago. Why has that not been working? Why don't we have CCTVs? We spent a lot of money on those things. Why are they not working now? Will heads roll from the president's visit? He said he was disappointed. We see the minister saying they needed to improve on intelligence. Why has there been failings all the while? And who says there won't be another attack? If another attack happens, what explanation will they have? Are we going to keep playing the blame game? You're there now. Fix it, or you know what to do. Mark?
Chamberlain, I think you took it right out of my mouth, because we can talk about, oh, the vestiges, this is the last vestiges of Boko Haram. Do you know how long we've been hearing that? The last vestiges of Boko Haram. Oh, this is nothing but the dying throes of is it a dead snake or something to that effect? I'm trying to paraphrase what we've heard the Minister of Information say to us at least how many years ago. I can't believe we're still listening to it how many years, afterwards. And this is with something as specific as a prison break. You've just raised the questions about what has been happening in our custodial centers. If it has happened in one custodial center, it's happened in another prison, shouldn't we know that we should beef up security around strategic prisons, especially prisons that hold suspected Boko Haram members and those who have been convicted of terrorism? Isn't it common sense that, we should ensure that if we do not fortify defenses around it, if we think that defenses are strong enough, that we have other internal mechanisms of monitoring what is going on there? I think that the Minister of Interior, should take more questions because what he has said just raises even more questions than it provides answers. And a lot of Nigerians are asking those questions. If in the last 3 years we have seen at least, over 10 jailbreaks, successful jailbreaks, and we're still trying to get over 4,000 inmates who have escaped, the prison cells, then I think that there's plenty of questions, and there are questions as to whether or not we've truly decimated the capacity of these Boko Haram terrorists who are currently wreaking havoc in many parts of the country and have a lot of our people in their custody. Gentlemen and lady.
Well, yes, indeed. So with time, we'll focus on that and get those questions out there because we want answers. But in a minute, we'll be back to take you through some of the dailies today. Welcome back. We'll start with Vanguard newspaper today. Muslim ticket. We can't campaign for Tinubu again. Northern APC Christians. Give Tinubu July 15 deadline to reverse choice of Shettima. Borno CAN chairman denies endorsing ticket. Ex-Milad, Ajobina, Princeville, others quit APC. We chose candidate who can secure victory for APC, Saliu Lukman. Tinubu has capacity to reposition Nigeria, Akingbade. And then you see APC's Muslim ticket, a disastrous error, satanic, says Babachir Lawal. So you still getting torrents of reaction about the emergence of the APC's vice presidential candidate, of which Vanguard focuses largely with a big lead on their front page. Well, beneath that, you get to see also political story. Why Jonathan stopped attending PDP meetings. Clark will resist attempt to appoint another interim NDDC administrator, he says. So, well, I guess from, who knows, from yesterday up until the elections, what am I even saying? For almost like forever, you get to hear comments, different comments from different quarters about goings on in the country. Nigerians are never short of speaking up when they have their backs against the wall, are they? Well, 2023, why Afenifere will support Peter Obi Adebanjo. But let me read Mr. and Mrs. Did I really answer anything? Okay,
No, you did not.
Okay, well, Mr. I think Mrs. might have raised an issue, and Mr. says, well, come on, darling, I know there's nothing wrong with you, so stop pretending. If you're feverish, we've been together for almost a decade. I know you like the back of my hand, so tell me, what do you want? Well, Mrs. says, if you know me, why are you asking for what I want? It means,
oh, really?
You should know by now.
Okay.
Yeah, so then you can flip to the back page of Vanguard's blistering start. Man United better Liverpool 4-0 in Bangkok. And then Chelsea closing on €34 million Napoli star Koulibaly. So, wow. Well, it's just pre-season friendly, guys. Don't gloat. Okay. Well, you can while it lasts, I reckon. Who knows? That's Vanguard today.
Oh, take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. I'm actually helping myself already. Taking a look at the inside pages. But hey, let's start with the front pages. The big story, Muslim ticket again. APC Christian leaders in 19 northern states reject Muslim ticket. It's a violation of party constitution. They say, I will have voted APC, but for Muslim ticket. That's coming from Clark. You see Adebanjo backs Peter Obi's presidential bid, pages 26, 27, 28. So looks like that's what's hugging the headlines. Clearly, it's a major talking point. Amidst all of that is still the very present challenges we're faced with in Nigeria. So I don't know if there's a way to try to balance all of that and ensure that we don't lose sight of one at the expense of the other. But that's what you have there. And right under the big picture, you see, action and not lamentation will end our strike. ASU tells Buhari. Action, not lamentation. Page 4. So what would action mean in this case? What is lamentation in this case? Page 4, perhaps, sheds more
Maybe
light
that's
on
it.
that.
Show me the money. And then they get back to classrooms.
So that's the action, right?
Yeah, that's the action they want.
I mean, the solution looks quite simple, right? But it looks like it's never that simple.
Apparently it's not. Don't forget, the medical, I think, is it medical workers or something?
The health workers.
Health workers,
yeah.
They say, look, government, FG, address their concerns or their demands, or you face solidarity strike.
Oh, wow. So 5-month strike, and you know what, looks like it might even get worse if action is not taken. So we do hope that that is done. On top of the nameplate, Nigeria's crude oil production averaged 1.238 million barrels per day in June. That's coming from OPEC. Crude oil price falls below $100 per barrel. I'm not sure we latched onto that just quite well. But that's the Nigerian Tribune for you today. Not forgetting sports on the back page. By the way, Sports Day has Liverpool wanted to stop me from playing. That's money. Whatever happened to Liverpool yesterday? Joints.
They lost 4-0. That's what happened.
No, it was just give and take.
Well, you win some and you lose some.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of losses, there's quite some here on the front page of The Guardian, depending on the way you choose to look at it. The big story says, travelers groan as summer fares spike 200%. 1 million naira per economy seat.
Oh, summer fares.
What's wrong with summer fares?
You used to be at a certain level in life to be able to relate with that
With
headline.
that.
Summer.
Because I thought, if I'm going from Lagos to Abeokuta, why is it summer
What's
fair?
this?
What's summer
Well,
fair?
Chamberlain, you know you don't
okay.
belong to that
Oh,
category.
wow. Why not?
Don't disguise this,
I'm
Chamberlain.
not a traveler.
Okay.
I don't go
But
to
maybe not a regular traveler.
I don't go to
We'll
Abeokuta.
get into that
but,
this
but
morning.
those who know, know.
They know, right?
1 million naira.
Wow.
But they can still afford to travel,
Yeah.
even at this rate. So if this is 1 million naira, what's the cost for the regular seats?
What's the cost for a bus from here to Ebonyi, please? But you know what?
You guys
It's
have lost some
understandable.
people this morning.
Well, let's take a look at
Like,
take a look at the riders. Foreign airlines ditch lowest fares, adjust exchange rates to hedge devaluation shocks. Average travelers lament weak naira to dollar rates. Fares demand still resilient. Top travel agencies say. Oh, that's interesting. Well, perhaps that's because they have no other choice.
Yeah.
Is it safe to travel on the roads, so would rather travel by air?
I think this is even traveling
Even that-
outside the country anyway.
Oh, okay. Well,
even local travels. too.
even local
It's taking
travels
a big
were
hit.
affected.
So
Okay,
local
so
travels both by air and by land, all taking a hit. All of them.
all right, there's more to see on the front page of The Guardian. Let's take a look at the bottom corner. More chieftains resign in protest over APC's Muslim ticket. You'll find the details on page 6 of The Guardian. And those who have resigned appear to be from Rivers State. I hear Tonya Princewell, former governorship aspirant, has resigned. And
So I think there's a
another
Rivers APC
Nollywood
issues, and then
actor.
there's the one that concerns the Muslim ticket as well.
Well, the gale of defections is not just affecting Rivers, but other parts of this country that we're sure to look at in the.
The bird says that you
course
should
of the
expect some
program.
other things, some other movements
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
other political parties.
Absolutely.
So I guess you just have to watch.
I mean, if Northern Christians are saying we're no longer campaigning for you, it appears as if there are more consequences to come as a result of the.
I'm always
Muslim
wary though
tickets.
when they are grouped together as though there was this general meeting with everybody. I mean, but anyway, please go ahead.
Well, we had the head of
okay.
the legal campaign council say to us yesterday that there was no meeting. So, you just have to take a look at what they're saying,
Yeah.
you know, before we make up our minds. Just one more story before we exit the front page of The Guardian. Anglican bishop says federal government not honest in tackling insecurity. Something for the Minister of Interior to chew on this morning. That's The Guardian.
Well, let's look at what the Daily Trust has for you this morning. How Nigeria borrowed 225 trillion naira in 20 years. Country earned 114 trillion naira in the same period. Oil producing states raked in 9.67 trillion naira special revenue. Trend worrisome. That's according to experts. They also have infographics there for you, showing you a breakdown of the borrowings, domestic borrowing, external borrowing, other borrowings from treasury bonds, promissory notes, bonds, etc. So if you want to take a look at that story, and this is very important because the economy and security will be at the heart. Some people say they're closely interlinked, that if you fix the economy, security will take care of itself. And if you want to look at that, there's no way you can look at it without looking at this, which is the breakdown of how Nigeria borrowed 225 trillion naira in 20 years. Look at this. Salah Ansari preaches rebellion against government in Kaduna. Page 3 is where you find details. Inflation, epileptic power, cost of diesel, erode gains of doing business. Nigeria records 7 million new broadband subscribers in 7 months. Well, data is life nowadays, that's what they say. Bandits attack Salah celebrants, kill 1, abduct 2 in Katsina. They have a number of other stories for you on the front page of Daily Trust, but pick up a copy and see them for yourself. Let's leave it there for the paper.
New Telegraph next. How Tambuwal betrayed me. Bajabiamila says he rejected Dogara as deputy. I know you're wondering, where is this coming from at this time? It's a lead story here. I had to check too if I've got
it's today's date, right?
Yeah.
It is.
It is, right?
It has to be.
All right. So it's a big lead. So is Tambuwal and Dogara going to speak or respond to this? Who knows? Jet A1 crisis threatens airlines as operators more surcharges, airfares to inevitably increase, and that is ascribed to IATA. So if you thought it rains, I guess it pours with this one. AGF position, FG shortlist 14 directors. I mean, you need to keep a tab on what's going on in that area. Did you see the amount of, they appoint one today, then he's got corruption cases, it's off. They appoint another, they say he's got corruption cases, then it's off. So you wonder,
what's going on?
Government, don't they do their due diligence before you bring in some of these people? It's your government, for goodness sakes. You have all the data, the dossier, or is it deliberate? Who knows? And where have all these ICPC and EFCC been if these persons have not been under the radar, not even in the net? If they had all these cases, why is he coming out when they're appointed?
Big questions, really.
Big questions.
Well, they also have the Muslim narrative at the bottom strip there, which you heard about. That's New Telegraph today.
Well, that's what leadership leads with, actually. Furore over APC running mate, Muslim ticket, recipe for more crisis, Northern Christians won. A host of riders you find there. There's an update on Osun poll, just on top of that lead story. INEC issues 1.5 million PVCs as IGP deploys 21,000 officers. So we're counting down to that election, and yeah, we'll be taking a look at that as well, see how that means for general electoral process in Nigeria. That's the leadership this morning.
Yeah, News Direct very quickly leads also with the Osun election, and it says Osun 2022 will return to celebrate Oyetola's victory. That's attributed to the APC presidential candidate Tinubu. The writers say Oyetola has brought purpose to governance. That's according to APC governors and party leaders. We're not taking any chances, APC national chairman Adamu. And you know, the pictures, a wide array of them are coming from the campaign, you know, part of which was talked about also yesterday on social media from, you know, the APC ground in Osun State. Well, we'll leave the people to decide on whether or not Oyetola has brought purpose to governance, and we do hope that votes will count come Saturday. All right, above the nameplate, there's a host of stories that that are worth our attention. Fuel scarcity to end in 3 days.
Wow.
That's, some hope for a silver lining in the sky for commuters and motorists. That's attributed to the NNPC. We do hope that the fuel scarcity does end in 3 days. So let's start counting.
Are we counting from today or yesterday?
Well, maybe from today.
So that'll be Saturday.
To be realistic. Ordinarily, we should count from when the story broke.
Yeah.
But
Saturday.
We'll just give an extra allowance.
So wait, did they say what happens if he doesn't?
No, not at all, Chamberlain.
So what's the point?
Not at all. Well, let's be hopeful.
Oh, dear.
And the middle story here, above the nameplate, says stakeholders groan as CBN restricts $450 million foreign airlines revenue. Well, that's relatable to the lead story on the front page of The Guardian. Not just stakeholders, everyone is groaning. And lastly, before we exit the front page of News Direct, let's look at one story at the bottom corner. Abuja-Kaduna train. Terrorists demand 400 million naira from railway workers.
They're still demanding things.
Still demanding.
The last time they demanded stuff, there was a jailbreak.
Well, they may be 900 million naira richer now if we do our calculation, having secured 100 million naira from the Methodist prelates that was kidnapped and released, 800 million naira from victims, according to an investigation by the Daily Trust newspapers.
Well, is that under the watchful eye of intelligence and security agencies in this blessed country?
Under this administration, I think we should also emphasize that.
Wow.
What's happening? More questions than answers. That's News Direct newspaper for you this morning.
Okay, well, don't forget, I think New Telegraph also had a bit of news that you could use, and they said there was a study there, and it read, skipping extra salt on food could boost longevity. So,
I told you.
Just Google and read it. So, something you can use.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That ends a look at some of the dailies here today. You're always welcome to send us a comment or two about whatever you think you've got up to here, for instance. But give us a moment. We will be back.
On election day, the national headquarters of INEC in Abuja will monitor the elections throughout Osun State. Our Zoom situation room will be activated. We are working to ensure that accredited observers and the media are invited to join us at intervals to provide live reports from the field. At the same time, citizens can contact us on our various platforms, such as the toll-free INEC Citizens Contact Center telephone line, in addition to our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts. I cannot conclude my remarks without addressing a matter of serious concern to our elections. Here, I'm referring to sundry violations of our electoral law, including the diabolical practice of vote buying, in which voters are financially induced to vote one way or another. It is obvious that the more the Commission and other stakeholders work hard to progressively improve the quality of national elections in Nigeria, the more some retrogressive elements undermine the process. While we continue to work with the security and anti-corruption agencies to confront this challenge, our effort will be given a boost by the establishment of the Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal.
There have been persistent warning over my life in the last 2 months. Very, very persistent. Very, very persistent. And in fact, it got to a stage that I became scared. But because I just believe life, we have to live it. But the warning has been coming from different angles persistently in the last 2 months. And again, about 2.5 months ago, one of these talks from Ilobu, my hometown, Said Itamfiani, actually physically crossed my vehicle while I was driving home. In fact, I was the only person who drove that day without any police escort. He crossed my vehicle, and I came there and said, "Young man, what do you think you are doing?" He said, "I should shut up. Who do you think I am?" He insulted me. And in fact, he was actually pushing my chest and I consider that thing a very terrible thing. Because this young man that I'm talking about, his own father cannot even do what he did to me that night. And a follow-up to that, while the warnings I've been receiving from different angles on an attempt that was likely to be made on my life.
Welcome back. Well, yes, as you've seen there, Reverend Father Atta Barkindo joins us now. He is the head of Secretariat for the National Peace Committee. He is also the Executive Director of Kuka Center. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Now, while INEC putting or crossing their eyes and crossing their T's and dotting their eyes, sometimes that always flips in my head, but it comes out differently. But, you know, there are also security concerns, and not just for the Labour Party candidate, but there are others who are also reported to have been threatened, houses set ablaze. And so these kind of things are the kind of matters I reckon that your committee likes to see relegated to the background. But those concerns are still making the rounds. And perhaps, you know, you could give us a little bit of historical perspective, if you will. So give us your impression now, the job of the Peace Committee. How would you situate it in the circumstance?
Thank you so much, Chamberlain. I think what people have seen so far is just the event of the signing of the peace accord between contestants and the different political parties involved in the process. But actually what happens is that even ahead of the signing, there are all kinds of mediations, back channel, you know, private phone calls and meetings and mobilizations that we carry out. And we share with all the political parties, especially the party chairmen and the particular candidates who are contesting, the content of the accord itself and the implications of the violations. So we carry out all kinds of mobilizations, and it is because all the members of the Peace Committee, particularly General Salam, who is the chairman, and Bishop Kuka, who is the convener, are really very worried about the level of insecurity that we have seen, just as the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Yusuf Lassen, have just mentioned there. So we are really very worried, and what we simply want to do is to lend our own little support to facilitate and contribute, especially key stakeholders that ordinary people cannot easily have access to, so that the Peace Committee can use it about their own obligation.
All right, so clearly it's we're losing him. Just keeps, but we'll sort that out in a moment. you know.
And responsibilities towards what we are doing here in Osun State.
Okay, we lost you for a bit there while you were talking, but just thinking about the entire thing, how you do what you do, one wonders, given what we've seen of politicians in this climb, how many think that quite a number of them don't seem to put their money where their mouth is. Put simply, they're not honorable gentlemen as they're expected to be. But the Peace Committee, does you deal with them hoping that they comply or adhere to whatever agreements that they've signed? Because it's not as straightforward, perhaps, as it appears, as though if they go ahead and sign this Peace Committee, they will adhere to it to the extent that they will instruct all the adherents to make sure that they do not do anything to jeopardize what they've signed. So what impression do you get when you get them all together to sign that? So even though they appear as though, yes, they've done this, do you still get the sense behind the scenes that they are really and truly committed to ensure that all is well and ends well?
I think that they are truly committed. We have seen that, especially after the elections in Kogi State and the violence that we saw. The Peace Committee was very active in Edo State and even in Anambra State. And the Peace Committee was transition in Edo and in real-time commitment from not just the who are contesting the elections. The difficulty is that these individual candidates who are contesting these elections may not have absolute and complete control, over their followers. In some cases, yes. In other cases, probably not. And so that is why we constantly remind them. I mean, the members of the Peace Committee can easily fold their arms and go home and just sit and relax. But I think that they feel they owe this country a duty and a responsibility to come out and to lend their own support to that process. So what we have seen is total commitment at least. And normally there are some staff of the Peace Committee Secretariat whose job is to monitor violations and compliance with the accord. Okay. So even after the signing, these members of staff remain behind in this particular state. So in this case, they will remain behind in Osun to monitor compliance with the spirit and letter of the accord. And so if there are violations, either through speeches during political rallies, either through incitement, either through opinion pieces, or news conferences by a member of the political party, by the chairman or the particular candidate, that is quickly flagged off and reported to the members of the Peace Committee. But also beyond that, we are working to see where the peace accord that has been signed can actually serve as evidence in the court of law during judicial, processes, especially when there's a bit of judicial contestation regarding the results of the elections. And that's why the Peace Committee is working very closely with INEC so that accountability mechanisms can now be undertaken by INEC using the laws, of the Commission.
Quite a number of things play out there when you say the Peace Committee, they stay back and monitor and flag violations where they find them. So, wait, how does this work if they were to monitor? Because you know that sometimes, if not in many cases, if you have to go beyond what you see. So if one person accuses party A, party B could deny it. So how does Peace Committee come to conclusions that these violations emanated from these quarters? And how is it acted upon if you've ever faced that kind of scenario?
Chamberlain, the content of the peace accord itself is really within the real-time crimes. This is like beyond the mandate, so it is handed over to INEC and to the security agencies. because the peace committee itself does not have a security personnel somewhere that you are going to arrest people. No, that is way beyond our mandate. So if you look at the content of the peace accord itself, that has to do with compliance, ensuring that there's no incitement, that women are not abused, that you discourage and mitigate fake news, and that the media is objective, and all those issues. And so far from Kogi State, except Kogi State, what we have seen so far, especially Anambra, in Ekiti, in Ondo, in Edo, there has been no very serious and substantial violations that is within the mandate of the peace committee itself. So all other violations, we do our report, we hand them over to INEC, we hand them over to the security agencies.
So the ones that you handed over, has there been any action taken against any one of them?
I think that there are two things happening here. Number one, once we are done with those reports and we hand them over to the peace committee, there are certain levels of meetings and mediations within the mandate of the peace committee that the members themselves can actually carry out. But then, as for serious crimes that we have handed over the report, I think that, to be very honest with you, it has been a very serious challenge. As we hear the commission's chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, just mentioned there, setting up the Electoral Offences Commission, a tribunal that will support with trying some of these offenses. And I think commission, but also for Nigeria. So, for example, what we saw in Ekiti, the massive vote buying, we were all really, it was very despicable. It was appalling, to see that kind of thing happening. And so we hope that going forward, the tribunal can come up and something serious will happen, because this is way beyond the mandate of the peace committee. The peace committee is just to carry out mediations, to talk and carry out some kind of moral intervention that will support the entire process. And in these serious things, we hand them over. And so we hope that the authorities will do something really practical and serious.
So to that extent, then, what can we say is really or are the implications or repercussions of violating the peace accord? I mean, just how much bite does it have? If there's not been much success in maybe prosecution or ensuring some sort of accountability, repercussions for violations, how much bite then can we say this has?
I think that the peace accord, in our opinion, has two advantages. Number one, beyond the compliance, serious compliance that people are looking out for, in cases where you have serious tension and anxiety and even lack of engagement between political parties, between political candidates, practically and physically seeing these people coming together to sit and to agree on something, I think in a way, even emotionally, sentimentally, it helps to douse, the anxiety, the tension. And we saw that happen especially in 2015, when there was so much tension in this country, and President Buhari himself came to the table and signed this accord with former President Goodluck Jonathan. And even the optics, seeing them embrace each other, that was really something, because people were already predicting that the country was entirely going to disintegrate. So this is the first advantage, because during the campaign period, you find a situation where these political parties hardly talk to each other. Some of the candidates don't even have a handshake with each other. So this is a massive, massive advantage. As for the lack of compliance, we have not seen it, with the peace accord itself in a very big way, other than the normal crimes that the constituted authorities should have handled. And I think for me, we will leave that to the constituted authorities. The peace committee here is to provide moral intervention. And I think it is important to make that point.
Absolutely. And I think, to be fair, that has, it has had its effect, huge effect on the process and, you know, the peaceful conduct of elections we've seen in recent times. In fact, the signing of the peace accord has become some sort of unofficial part of the build-up to elections. It's one of the things you look forward to once you see the peace accord. Oh, you know that election season, or at least the election itself, is upon us. But I noticed that for this one, there's a focus on, you know, voter inducement, corrupt financial voter inducement. I recall the chairman of a committee, General Absalom Abubakar, speaking particularly about that. So is there anything in this peace accord that is meant to be signed just hours from now that touches on that, that maybe seeks to get their commitment regarding corrupt financial voter inducement?
So within the context of the accord is that we have included a clause, a very serious clause in that. But beyond that, throughout last week and yesterday, members, not just members of the Peace Committee, but even the Secretariat staff, we have been holding town hall meetings, appearing on FM radio, appearing on TV, local TVs here in Osun, talking to people, asking them, not to sell their votes and all that. But as Bishop Kuka would say, these are just, the symptoms. If people are really very dispossessed and there's aggressive poverty on ground, 3,000 naira may mean nothing to you, Chris, but to a family that can keep them for a whole 1 week. The 3,000 naira or 5,000 naira they have never seen throughout the year. So we are just trying to deal with the symptoms, but I think the greater issues are very, very structural. And so we are appealing to the authorities, because if there are millions of youths who are completely unemployed, families are living without food, people are completely dispossessed. I mean, waiting for the period to sell your vote, get 10,000 naira, get 20,000 naira, is something like waiting for your own birthday. It's something like, and we can see the level of poverty on the streets. And so I think for me, the issues are very structural. It doesn't matter what we do, these structural issues must be dealt with.
I recall during the Ekiti election, which we covered, and there was a point where they were sharing money, and I actually approached some of them. I mean, asking why. I recall a lady saying, "We're hungry here." And you could see the honesty, I mean, the pain in her voice. I mean, I was, at that point, my hands were tied. All I could just do was report that. And I'm wondering now, for this Osun elections, are you worried then that perhaps this might be another election where this will be pervasive? Because we saw it during the Ekiti elections, and it looked like nothing could be done. Security agencies looked the other way. In fact, some of them partook in it, I must say. And, officials their hands were tied, as they always say. So is that a concern you have, that in spite of all the, talking to people, getting them to sign even the peace accord that has a clause on voter inducement, that this might be pervasive?
It's not just in Osun State. If you look at generally as we move towards the 2023 election, all the indicators, are there. The economy is in a very bad shape. The level of insecurity that you have seen. So I think that vote buying, as we saw in Ekiti, we are really very worried, not just about vote buying in Osun, but also, the level of insecurity, especially the attack on the candidate of the Labour Party. But also what has happened here in Osun State during the elections on Saturday could be a litmus test for what will likely happen during the 2023 general, elections. And for me, Chris, to be honest, all the indicators are there. Look at the economy. You people, during the newspaper analysis, you were just outlining the level of insecurity that we have seen, the kind of things that are happening, selection of candidates, what happened during the primaries. These are all indicators, and if we are not careful and steps are not taken, beyond Ekiti, beyond Osun, even the general elections, could be consumed. I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom, but to be honest with you, all the indicators, are there, especially seeing how, dispossessed people are, the level of poverty, the economy and lack of employment. Millions of youths are at home because the universities are closed, ASU is on strike. And if general elections will offer people the opportunity to egg out some money, people will likely sell, their votes.
Speaking of indicators, Father, you know, it would seem like it's a given already that it's a major factor that will shape the Osun election if, you know, the words attributed to one of the candidates is anything to go by. He's been quoted as saying that he's ready to match naira for naira and even spend dollars in this election. And I wonder if security agents are taking a second look at this, if vote buying is a crime, is an electoral offense under the new Electoral Act. But perhaps we should rest on that and look at your earlier commentary. You said something about there are back channels, you know, apart from the Peace Committee, there are back channels during which appeals are made, you know, to some of these politicians. If we brought them, you know, to a round table now and asked them if they were perpetrating electoral violence, you know, they would say no. And we've had some of their representatives come to speak on the program. So I'd like to ask, I wonder if during those back channels, there's anything that gives off, that suggests grievances that could perhaps serve as pointers to the fact that indeed you're able to tell that these are the politicians perpetrating electoral violence.
So what happens is that after our mobilizations and private engagements with the candidates, the chairman of IPAC for that particular state, we work closely with INEC. So for example, yesterday, INEC had what we call the stakeholder meeting with all the political parties and key stakeholders in Osun State. This exactly, and we collaborate with INEC on that. So they express all their grievances, their concerns regarding vote buying, insecurity, attack on particular political party or candidate, and all the threats that will likely affect, the performance of their own particular candidates or political parties. So during that stakeholder meetings, all these issues are addressed, concerns are expressed. And then we announced that the next day there will be signing actually of the peace accord. And during the mobilization, we give each party, the party chairman and the candidate, the content so that they can read and understand the letter and the spirit of that accord. And if they have any concern, they actually raise that concern before the signing of the accord. And so far, no person, no party, no candidate has raised any concern, because I think that the content of the accord is in line with every element, every component of Nigeria's law and even the Electoral Act. And so they have all agreed to come today at 10 a.m. at the Atlantis Civil Center to sign, the accord. So far, this is where actually we are. But the electoral process is just beyond a particular political party, a particular candidate. It involves literally every citizen, for example, here in Osun State. So the conduct of everyone, the normal, ordinary citizens on the street, the security agencies, the political parties, INEC itself, everybody will have to contribute to the success of that, elections.
The Barkindo that, the committee's work, part of the committee's work is to monitor and flag violations. I wonder when your mandate is activated actually, at what point during the election, if we consider the attack on the Labour Party candidate, is that part of what you have monitored and flagged? What are your findings in that regard, if your work had begun prior to that time? And where is it going to lead us?
So normally we arrive a few days before the signing of the accord, and we document, some of the security concerns, and we just flag them up and hand them over either to security agencies, INEC itself. But of course, something like this kind of a brazen attack that you have seen on the candidate of the Labour Party, I think is very obvious. Even if the Peace Committee members don't take any notice of that, the security agencies themselves have seen it. INEC have seen it. The whole authority in Nigeria have seen it. Does the Peace Committee in that context have to do anything? I really don't think so. We just have to document that these things have happened. I think that so far, for what we have seen right now, investigations, are ongoing, and we expect that arrests really should be made. But what the Peace Committee can do is to reach out to the candidate of the Labour Party, reassure him, because participating in these elections and giving the people of Osun an option, an other array of options, I think it will be very, very important and very critical, because that is the beauty, of democracy. And so we will encourage him not to run away, not to step away. It is his right to participate, vote, and be voted for. And so these kind of threats may always be there, but I think that we have to confront them in order to deepen democracy, not just in Osun State, but I think in Nigeria generally.
Well, the Peace Committee has now been carrying out this mandate since the 2015 general elections. And a lot of people credited it for, perhaps a peaceful transition we witnessed in 2015. From then on, would you be able to say that you've been able to record concretes in terms of your interventions, not just at general elections, but also at off-season elections like this?
The mandate of the Peace Committee in 2015 was supposed to have been one-off because of the tension that existed, especially between when that event was done and the signing and everything happened and there was a peaceful transition. I know from the report that there was a specific request for the Peace Committee to remain, to specifically provide those moral interventions, because the members have so much convening power. They are able to have access to the highest, level of policymakers in government to a way that certain organizations, certain people may not have. And I think since then, that is what the Peace Committee has been able to provide. Number one, having access, to people at the highest level of government, trying to present the concerns of ordinary people and other things that have been happening to the government, whether they listen or they don't listen, but they are able to bring those to the attention. And I think that because of the seriousness of that and the moral intervention they were able to provide, that was when the demand came that they should also help, during the off-cycle elections. I remember the tension in Anambra State, even when Dora Akunyili's husband was assassinated. Literally, people were not even talking Anambra State. People were afraid whether the elections in Anambra State was going to happen or not. I was in Anambra State for over 2 months on behalf of the members of the Peace Committee and with the mandate of General Salam, the chairman, and the convener, Bishop Kuka. I met with literally every governorship candidate, begging them to come to the table and agree to a peace agreement so that the elections in Anambra State will happen peacefully. And to be honest, people thought the event was not going to happen. There was no way the governorship candidates in Anambra State will come together because of the tension. IPOB has ordered people to sit at home. The election was not going to happen, just like they predicted the complete disintegration of Nigeria in 2015. But to the surprise of everyone, the candidates came together, signed the accord. The elections in Anambra State took place peacefully. Announcement was made. Soludo became the governor of the state. And life went, moved on. We did the same thing in Edo. I remember the tension in Edo to a point that we had to involve the Oba, of the Oba not the Oba, the local traditional ruler in Edo State. So we were able to pull everyone together, and the signing of the accord happened in Edo State, and then everything simply moved, forward. And I think that those moral interventions are literally needed. For the reason that there's a lot of trust deficit in state-owned institutions, in institutions mandated by the Constitution. A lot of people don't trust the process. And that is why people may turn either to religious leaders, to traditional rulers, to some moral kinds of organizations that will provide support and intervention. And I think on that note,
while people are hoping, as well as you are, that there will be a moral growth, a moral culture seeping into our politics, do you think that morality will be enough? I know you've spoken about, collaborating with INEC. INEC is seeking laws to be made to actually hold people accountable, considering the fact that you have no other powers apart from holding people morally accountable, do you think that it will be sufficient enough to actually hold politicians in check, considering how desperate people can become during elections?
I'll be very honest with you, is actually challenging, but it can be consolidated if there is true compliance with the Electoral Act and with laws, and that people are held accountable by authorities that have been mandated by law to hold people, accountable. So morality on its own does not survive. Morality survives when there is elimination of the culture of impunity, and when there is accountability mechanism in place. That is when you know that morality is working. But unfortunately, as you can see in our own country, that has actually, collapsed to a point that if there are no accountability mechanisms in place, should we also fold our hands and do nothing? And then the entire thing goes down the drain. And I think that we are hoping, and not just praying, but actively hoping and actively working and reminding key stakeholders that it is important to comply, even beyond just morality.
And Reverend Father Atta Bakindo, Head of Secretariat, National Peace Committee, and also Executive Director of Kuka Center. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
We're back in a moment, everyone. Stay with us.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on a visit to Daura, announced his choice of vice presidential candidate in the person of former governor of Borno State, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, who is currently a serving senator. And Kashim Shettima is one of Nigeria's finest, and we believe he brings a lot of value to the presidential ticket. So we are quite pleased, and we pray that his formidable capacity will complement the capacity, the well-known capacity, formidable indeed himself, of our presidential flag bearer. And Nigerians will be convinced that this is about the best team that the parties in this 2022 primary season have produced. We congratulated Mr. President that under his leadership, one of the most transparent primaries took place, which saw the emergence of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as our presidential flag bearer. Governors are very, very pleased. We are very, very proud. We are equally, like I just said, very happy and proud that the vice presidential candidate is no less a person than Kashim Shettima.
Well, that's precisely what we're talking about this morning. You just heard the governor of Kebbi State, Atiku Bagudu, talk about how the party and indeed the governors, the Progressive Governors Forum, are throwing their weight behind the choice of the APC's candidate, who has finally picked his vice presidential candidate, not without furore, because a look at the headlines this morning will show that it has not been received very well within the party. There has been a slew of resignations as a result of that. And those in the northern region, especially the Christians within the APC, are saying that it's going to be very difficult for them to market the candidature or the candidacy, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress. What is happening within the party as a result of this? I mean, are there worries within the party? Do they think that they will be able to pull together? What has informed this decision? It would seem from a number of things that there'll be questions about the consultations that went on within the party, especially when you see the number of resignations that have happened. And some still say that perhaps there could be more. But we have with us this morning Barrister Ismail Ahmed, who is a former national youth leader of the All Progressives Congress. He's a member of the Board of Trustees and also Senior Special Assistant to the President on Special Intervention and a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Happy Salah.
Yeah, I wish you the same. I see you're still in the mood of Salah.
I am.
Well, whilst you are, because this announcement came during the visit of the presidential candidate of your party to the president, paying the usual Salah homage. And that's where he chose to announce this particular decision of his. According to him, there were wide consultations. But from what we have seen, the reactions which we have seen, the questions will be, was this consultation really wide enough to accommodate all views before the vice presidential candidate was settled upon?
Good morning, Mompe. This is how I see this, right? And you know, I'm known to always talk out of pure objectivity, but I like to see it from this perspective. There is no easy decision when it comes to picking the vice presidential candidate for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There wouldn't have been any easy choice. There wouldn't have been any easy decision. There wouldn't have been any decision or choice that would have been unanimously accepted by all communities or all you know, all kinds of phases or perspectives within the party structure or the general public. There wouldn't have been. I just came back from home. I just came back from Kano yesterday. And I do know that there was a lot of people who were miffed. There were a lot of people who were miffed that the Northwest, our zone, for example, who has the largest voting population of about 20 million upwards, 6 out of the 7 governors are members of the APC, 5 of which are in their second term, none of which contested against the presidential candidate in the convention. The only person that bought the form and dropped at last minute was the Jigawa State governor. And they thought that they handily picked him, and they, you know, and a lot of people, not the governors, a lot of people, you know, rank and file within the party thought that the Northwest could have been considered. North Central, some people thought that North Central hadn't had a presidential or vice presidential candidate in a democratic setting. And even though they have more, they have a larger voting population, 30 million upwards in the last election, in the last registration, even much more than the Northeast, you know, they were not considered. You know, so how far down do you have to demarcate this country? And the tendencies are a lot. I do not envy the presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I know that there was no decision or choice that he would have made that would have made it easy or that would have been swallowed hook, line, and sinker at the first go. But I do know that there was consultation that had gone on. Whether or not that consultation had everybody in agreement, which was going to be difficult in any case for that to happen, looking at the short period of time that we have to deliver a substantive vice presidential candidate. But this is what I always ask my friends when they tell me that, because there are a lot of people that have called me and said, hey, I mean, what's going on here? How? I don't think that anyone, least of all the media, should weaponize religion. I don't like that term, Muslim ticket, Christian ticket, that somehow portrays as if there's something wrong with being a Muslim or there's something wrong with being a Christian. I understand the symbolism that the so-called balanced ticket should have. But when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was nominated at Eagle Square, I think the least of the concerns of the delegates was whether or not he was a Muslim. I think he was nominated because of how much work and investment he has put into political and democratic structure in the last 30 years that gave him that edge over his co-contestants, not because he was a Muslim. And I think if you look at the pedigree of Shettima as well, he is not known to be somebody who wears his religion in his sleeves, or his faith in his sleeve. He is known to be a person who is fair-minded, who is cerebral, who is formidable in terms of his capacity to deliver. You look at all these things. So no matter what I say here today, I would be unfortunately viewed as a northern Muslim first who is trying to defend a ticket that probably favors me. That's what a lot of people who are watching today probably might feel. And like I said, it was not an easy choice, but it was not a choice that was born out of the fact that Shettima was a Muslim first. No. I think it was a choice that was born out of the fact that the presidential candidate is absolutely comfortable with the man Shettima, his pedigree, and his political prowess, his ability to negotiate and to bring some certain value to the table, like you heard the governor of Kebbi State said. And I think that's what should be. And I think what we should focus on for all of us who are members of the party, a choice has been made by our presidential candidate. The day we nominated him as our presidential candidate, we have entrusted in him the ability to make certain judgments and decisions on behalf of the party. And I think we should go out and make the best out of, out of the situation.
Well, we'll see just how you proceed on that. But, some people will say that this is not the media making things up. This is the reality, and this has been the concern. Shortly after your party's candidate, the presidential candidate, emerged, there was a lot of talk. I mean, because immediately the results came out, the question was who was going to be his running mate. And there we now began to see a lot of permutations as to, where he was going to go. Will he be able to pick, will he be able to pick a Christian northerner? Because these are all the elements now that we know in 2023 now go to make a balanced ticket, so to speak. So there were early, permutations as to just which way it was going to swing. You just brought in other perspectives. I mean, talking about the representations of the different regions. But for a number of people, this is precisely, the media reflects what society is generally saying. Would you say, because some people will say that we shouldn't be told that religion is not important, that perhaps it is reflective in the choice that the candidate has made, that indeed religion is indeed important?
I'll repeat this. I don't think Shettima was chosen because he was a Muslim. I don't think Bola Ahmed Tinubu got elected at Eagle Square to represent the party because he was a Muslim. In fact, let me tell you something funny, and it might be controversial. There are a lot of people, Muslim faithfuls, that don't even believe that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is Muslim enough for them. For example, if that's what you want to talk about. There are a lot of Hausa Fulani. Let me give you an example. Let me even break it down more. You hear the term Hausa Fulani all the time, which means the Hausas and the Fulanis are the dominant part of certain region of the country. I'm sure you've never heard of the term Kanuri Hausa, Hausa Kanuri. Probably no term like that. Shettima is a Kanuri. Kanuris are predominantly in Borno, Yobe, and maybe some parts of Jigawa, and maybe Nasarawa State. So, if you're talking about that, the House of Fulanis will say, hey, we're not represented on the ticket. And, for example, so so what I'm saying is...
No, let me take on your point.
Hold on. Religion, I've made it clear in the beginning, Mocha. Religion is absolutely important, especially to Nigerians in the political circle. There's no doubt about it. But like I said, the presidential candidate did not make that decision, I'm sure, alone because Shettima is a Muslim. He said he picked Kashim because of his competence, because he believes that he can complement him very well. in discharging their duties
Okay.
as president and vice president.
So granted, that was what he said in his statement, but your very first statement in the second question, which is that some people do not believe that the presidential candidate of your party is not Muslim enough.
Yeah, there are some people who...
Could precisely be the reason why he had to get another, a vice presidential
no, that's
candidate
speculation.
who was Muslim enough to represent
that's not
them on that ticket?
That's not predominantly what we believe.
You do not agree?
No, absolutely not. That's not predominantly what we believe. Let me tell you this, because what I'm saying is that there are so many reasons why people would find faults in every decision or choice you make. Mm-hmm. And if people are given the opportunity, they'll find all kinds of shades of opinion. You will get that. There will never be an end to that. Do we hope that there was a situation where religion doesn't matter in our politics? Yes. Where competence alone and pedigree and the credence of the candidates only is what the electorate are looking for? Maybe yes. But unfortunately, we are in a situation where we have to run a country based on developmental ideas. And we have a presidential candidate of which we have entrusted upon the right to carry our flag. And we have to trust in his judgment. Of course, he has to do the necessary thing that politicians do in situations like that, which is to consult widely and have some sort of substantial general acceptability within the circle.
So let me ask you
for him
this.
to be able to make that choice, which I'm sure
you have said in our politics,
you
have acknowledged that in our politics today, religion matters.
And every other thing.
The question for me will be, to what extent did religion play a role in this ticket, in deciding this ticket?
You want an honest answer? I don't think much. I don't think religion played any role in the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If Bola Ahmed Tinubu...
Not Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Hold on, you said on the ticket.
I'm talking about his vice presidential candidate. That's where the controversy lies. That's where the controversy lies.
Can you give me...
I'm trying to be more specific with my question.
If Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not a Muslim, would this have been controversial? No. So let's start from him, right? He is the person who made a choice. He was the person who was elected. The question is, there were 2,332 delegates that assembled at Eagle Square. Almost 50% of them are Muslims, are Christians, or of other faiths other than Muslims, for example. Overwhelming majority of them voted for that ticket. A lot of Muslims voted for other non-Muslim candidates in Eagle Square. But he carries the mandate of the party today. Did religion play a role in his emergence? Absolutely no. He emerged because he is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has put in the works in the last 30 years.
So granted.
Did religion play a role in his choice of Kashim-Shettima? I don't think so. I think a lot of people believed that Kashim-Shettima was going to emerge because of the role he played in the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the candidate, because of how much he was out there front and center campaigning day and night. And there are a lot of party faithful who said, hey, at least we have somebody who understands the value of loyalty, who understands the value of rewarding hard work. And he has given it to somebody who has actually gone out and worked hard for him. Now, like I said, there are different shades of opinion. You may agree with some, you may not agree with some. There is no easy choice in this. There is nothing that there's nobody Bola Ahmed Tinubu could have picked, and I know a lot of people rooted for Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, for example. One, because of his competence, because of how much he has turned around Kaduna State, because in his 4-year stint as Minister of FCT, he has done wonderfully well, because of the opportunities he has given young people in Kaduna and when he was Minister of FCT. Fantastic guy by all standards. And yet you still have some people on the other side of the divide that will tell you that, hey, if we had given Nasir El-Rufai, he is very polarizing, he's a lightning rod. So there is no easy decision, no matter what you see. Some people had advocated for probably Yakubu Dogara, for example, the former Speaker of the House of Representatives. Fantastic guy, good gentleman, with absolute, with a humble mien who understands, the politics of all these things. And he did very well as Speaker of House of Representatives. But other people say he's not a household name yet. Who do we know? How do we go about it? So there's different shades of opinion. There was no way any of his choices would have been applauded by all and sundry. It wouldn't have happened. But as a presidential candidate, he had to take a decision, and he has to take a bullet for it. It's our job as party members to go out into every nook and cranny. This election, regardless of what happens, is not going to be easy anyway. It's going to be highly competitive. I've said it on this program times with that number 2 years ago, a year ago, that the election of 2023 is going to be the most open contest since the return of democracy in 1999, because there is no incumbent seeking re-election. There's no Muhammadu Buhari on the ballot. It's going to be an open contest. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard fought down to the wire. So regardless of what the choice of Bola Ahmed Tinubu or any of the other presidential candidates and other political parties are, we must, all party members must fold their sleeves and go back to the units and concentrate. We don't want to see people jumping up and down in Abuja saying they're doing this. Go back to your units, turn up the votes. That's how we're going to win this election, regardless of who the choice was.
Let's flip this to Lagos now. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we've got Mr. Anthony Sani. He joins us virtually this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program. Well, some of your earlier submissions had been that you had cautioned that the APC presidential ticket should not go this way.
I don't want you to wait for you.
Mr. Sani, can you hear me? You're live now. So now that the vice presidential candidate has emerged...
I said, I don't want you to wait.
Are you there, Mr. Sani? Okay, I think it's just a little distracted. So, can you hear me? We need to be sure that you can. Okay, well, Mr. Sani is not set for us at the moment, so we'll see how we can address it. But we also will be bringing in Murtala Aliyu, who is the former Minister of State for Power. He also joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program. Can you hear us? Okay, I thought that this is sorted. Okay, who do we have on? It's supposed to be two. Mr. Liu, can you hear me? Mr. Murtala Ali, can you hear me? All right, so we'll sort that out and see how that plays out. But well, getting back to Ismail on this matter, yes, you said that it's not no easy decision could have been taken on this matter. But if that were the case, but from the narratives we heard from other party members, they seem to think differently. They kept on saying that this is the best decision that they could have taken, and that they just had to run with this. So is that impression of yours saying, look, this is the way it is it spreading across board now from all party members?
Thank you, Chamberlain. You see, there's a difference between best decision and easy decisions. Usually best decisions are not necessarily easy, but, that's why we have leaders, right? Leaders are not meant to take easy decisions, because easy decisions probably could have been taken by anyone. But we usually hope that whatever decisions they take are usually the best decisions. Personally, I'm convinced that, Senator Kashim-Shettima, who I am personally very close to, is an exceptional human being. And he's a wonderful person. He's a good value addition to the ticket, Whether everybody would agree with that, this is something that we need to go out. Thank God we have time. We have 6 to 7 months to elections. We have time to go out and meet our party members who are aggrieved, and rightly so. I do not begrudge anyone who is aggrieved or anyone who is miffed enough to say he has resigned his membership of the party or resigned his membership of the support that he has for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But really, what were we thinking? We know a lot of us that have, a lot of the people that supported Bola Ahmed Tinubu pre-primaries are also aware that this could come down to this. It could come down to either one of these two decisions. But in supporting him, I would assume that you have, or we all have, subscribed to the fact that whatever decision he makes, we are going to make the best out of those decisions. So we need to go out and actually placate and pacify our members of the party and try to get other people who are not necessarily members of the party, but who are, within the gen pop, who are electorates, to be able to support this ticket. It's our job to do that. And I understand why some people would be angry. I understand why some people would be disappointed. They have their right to do so. It is not fair for anyone who does not agree with them to think that what they are doing is absolutely asinine. It's not asinine. I think what they are doing is a reaction to something they have expected that did not come through. But I think it's our job as members of the party to go out and reach out to them, to be able to pacify them and get them back on board so that we could all work this. Like I said, this election, it's going to be hard fought down to the last minute. And
just a quick one, Ismail. Just before we go to break,
hands on deck
part of the submission from your party members too, incidentally, is such that there was a high-ranking member in the office of a deputy governor who thinks, look, my constituency 80% Christians, and then you come up with this. So how do I go back and campaign in that particular area after they had expected it to go a certain way? So they even thought it's also insensitive to those kinds of people. How do they deal with that?
Like I said, Chamberlain, for every argument you pick from one individual, you can pick an opposing argument for another individual. Somebody, someone running for office in Kano, for example, or in Sokoto, for example, or in the Muslim-dominated area of Bauchi or Muslim-dominated area of Taraba, would probably tell you the same thing if it has been flipped. So, let's not get into the individual arguments of people who feel as if they are going to be affected by this. In 1979, the election of 1979, if you look at the records, late Sir Chief Obafemi Awolowo, ran with Philip Omadi, who was from the southeast. They came very close to winning that election against Shagari and Ekweme. Very close. It had to go to courts. Shagari had to, the NPN at that time had to struggle to get 25% in some major states like Kano, for example.
All right, Ismail.
And that was a South-South ticket.
We need to go to break now.
It that way.
But
and if and that was a Christian ticket.
All right, but they say politics is a game of interest. So those individuals also have their interests, which is essentially to them what politics is about. So they will think they cannot dismiss their own interests.
And we can never dismiss it. That's my point. We can never dismiss their interests.
Okay, we'll go to break and then we'll return and talk about some other matters. Remember, the president did speak, talking about how he's eager to go back to Daura. Then there's a question of security. And what about ASU? We'll see how we can factor all of that in just a moment. We'll be right back. We can now be joined by Murtala Ali, who is the former Minister of State for Power. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, you've been at that position in governance. And looking at how things are playing out today, governance-wise, we've seen that of security, we've seen different things playing out. What is your impression of how these things are going on and how they are being handled?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. We have made statements about the security before. We have not changed our position. I think the the narration should be that government should give security a priority more than any other thing. The main duty of government is to protect life and property. Now, if for instance, you're using a particular method and it keeps failing, it means we need to change the method. If the personnel you are using to lead the campaign to establish security are also not performing, you need to reject them. So I think our position has been very clear. It's a primary responsibility of government. And I believe that I think a lot need to be done. A lot more need to be done.
A lot of some of the other items that seem to confuse a lot of people in terms of how government works is, for instance, the president spoke recently about ASU, saying enough is enough. They need to get back to teaching such that the future of the students will not be in jeopardy any more than it is already. But ASU says they don't understand what that is. In fact, some of the dailies refer to them as wishful thinking. And so you thought, is the president getting the right information from his handlers? And if he were, how come he's making this kind of statements about ASU, where ASU thinks it's about negotiation? You've not given us anything. How do we go back to classes?
Well, it is our wish as leaders, as parents, that ASU also strike. But I think it's a little beyond just commanding them to go back to the classes. I believe that government has a role to play. I believe that ASU also need to shift ground. At one level, ACF wanted to intervene, but I think it's a little bit more dramatic than it appears to the public. So I think both the government and ASU will need to sit down and take this matter seriously. I think it's not about commanding them or threatening them to go back to the class. I think it's about looking at all the issues they have raised and addressing those that can be addressed, and also pacify them or promise them on those that cannot be addressed immediately. The matter or the issue of selling them to this call of the strike, just like that, is a bit confusing to us too. But I believe that both sides should be reasonable. Both sides should realize the consequence of this strike, not just on the children, but on the nation. We are producing our next leaders, and we are playing with that. And other countries, the world will not take us serious if for the whole year our children are home, and then we expect that we're going to produce a good quality, people.
I know that ACF has different views about what should be with the emergence of the APC's presidential candidate. Would you want to give your perspective on that, given the conversations and reactions coming through from almost every quarter you turn?
Well, ordinarily, we don't get involved in partisan issues. I think politics is about how you intend to run the country, how you intend to win the election. And so if a political party decides to choose a candidate or a person from anywhere, that's his own business. Before now, we've been trying, the society has been trying to drag us into the North-South issue. We said, no, we don't care where a president comes from, as long as a president is a Nigerian and he has Nigeria in mind, and he'll be fair to all sides of the country. And also will address the challenges of the North, which are very peculiar. Now, when, again, a party decides to choose a particular person as their vice president, I think if they think that can make them win election, that's okay. Previously, there had been cases where people either from one side of the divide come together to have a ticket. I remember when Chibaba Femalo took Chief Philip Umiadi as his running mate. Both of them were from the South, both of them were Christians. There was no use and price. When Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe took Professor Ishaya Audu, yes, Ishaya was from the North, but he was a Christian. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was a Christian. There was no problem. If a party decides that's how they want to go and they think they can win the election, I think that's all right. It's only curious that some social-political groups are coming to say, look, they don't support this because I think we don't want to get involved in that. But I can tell you that the party will carry its own cross.
But yes, for a number of people, they think, yeah, go ahead and carry your cross. It doesn't matter where the people come from. But in the same breath, when those kind of people now look to what plays out, they see how certain things or policies seems to favor a certain group. They look at how security agencies respond to threats, security threats coming from perhaps, for want of words, from persons from different regions. They look to all of these things and think, wait a minute, if they say it doesn't matter where the person comes from, but the action speaks louder than some of those words, and that's why they are so concerned that, look, if this were to be the case and the party wins, they will always view whatever happens from that prism, saying, look, this action is suspicious. They'll scrutinize it based on religion. How do we take that away?
You see, there are two dimensions to this thing. First of all, it's a multi-party democracy. I think one has the choice to go which side one wants to. If you want to, I mean, there are countries where some parties are even religious parties and people vote for them. It has happened in Israel, it's happened in India, and so on. So I think the issue is about the choice of the party and the choice of the populace. Now, if the population think that is not a good ticket, they have options in the party. I mean, there's not, even in a one-party state, that's a problem. But in a situation where the parties are many, I don't see a problem there. Number one. And number two, the second aspect of it is that, look, this issue of security agencies, either playing a role or not, we've dragged the security agencies into politics, which is unfortunate. When Obasanjo was the president of Nigeria and I was a minister then, there hasn't been a service chief that has been a Muslim, apart from the chief of defense that time, the gentleman from Kogi, the admiral from Kogi. And there was nobody raising any issue. And now when a number of the service chiefs are Muslims, people are raising issues and so on, I think we should allow the security agencies to do their work. And today, while some of the service chiefs are northerners, most of the security challenges are from the north. So I don't see how you can help, whether you are from the north or south, or whether you are a Christian or a Muslim, for as long as the structure of the security is not put in such a way that you can tackle problems. So as for those who think that things are going to be tilted, it doesn't help. It doesn't work before. It's not going to work in future. What I think it should be fairness. There should be fairness in the selection of people that will do your job. If you are going to take somebody, it should be somebody who can deliver, not somebody who is from your corner or from your own partition. So I think that we should give the parties a chance to go there, to do as they wish, and then we as the electorate can determine where to go.
I think one of the statements you released recently raised questions about just the kind of advice leaders get. And this was particularly maybe speaking to the president, but I'm just trying to extrapolate generally the kind of advice. I know the ASF was speaking particularly about security, saying that, we can no longer tell the president what he wants to hear. I mean, we need to tell him the truth, essentially. And I just want you to speak to that particularly. It also touches on security, interestingly. So in terms of the kind of advice you think the president is getting, the kind of feedback he's getting, it looks like from that statement you think that the president might be getting something different from what is the reality on ground. So Nigerians are experiencing one thing, I mean, the shoe hurts in one particular point, but the kind of feedback, the kind of advice the president is getting is quite different. Is that what you were trying to say?
Well, maybe not exactly so. We believe that the president should get credible information. I think our security agencies developed enough to be able to tell the president the truth. Now, on whether it gets to him or not, the important thing is that the president has also other access to information. Some of them very clear. I mean, if you look at the train attack a couple of months ago, I look at the attack on the convoy of the president going home, and look at the prison attack, which this is the first. A serious system should take measures to ensure that such things do not occur. I know there are quite a number of such incursions that have been warded off, but I think some are so crucial and fundamental when the security system is inching, not only on the masses, but even on the leadership. When the convoy of the president has been attacked, I mean, you can imagine who is safe. So whatever it is, I think either that some people should resign or some people should be fired. If such a thing can happen in the country, I think an honorable person would just say, look, I can't do this job and give way. But in a situation where people just sit on and continue giving explanation on why certain things have been done or how they can be mitigated, I think it's a bit. So we have to tell the president, look, if these people can't do their job, change them. Because we're going to hold you responsible. We're not going to hold your lieutenants responsible. We're going to hold you responsible. So if you think your lieutenants are not doing what they should, I think the important thing is to replace them or ask them to resign. So it's good to let them give them time. I'm giving you a week or two. Give me reasons on why I cannot sack you.
As a follow-up to that question, you recall the Army Day celebration during which the Chief of Army Staff said that the Army had recorded some successes in the battle against insurgency. And you would also recall how the President visited the Kuje prison and he expressed shock, and asked a lot of questions about the management of the prisons such that, that magnitude of attack could have occurred. So I ask again, is the President getting the right feedback from security agents, as to what exactly is going on? In his remarks during the Salah Day celebrations, he also said that there are some successes that have been recorded in the Northeast, but that the Northwest has proven to be difficult. So is he getting the right amount of feedback?
Look, I cannot say whether the president gets the right feedback or not, but the important thing is that, look, it's not for the president to be shocked. It's for the president to act. I think that if some information gets to him and it turns out to be wrong, somebody must pay a price for the same. There are areas in this, especially now if you look at some areas in Kaduna State where the ISWAP have taken over and have refused even political parties to come there and campaign. So, you see, when you are gaining grounds in this Northeast and you are losing in this Northwest or any part of the country, I think that's a matter for concern. The point I'm making is that, look, if the agencies are giving the president information and he's shocked, as he said, I think he should act, not just get shocked, not express shock. He should act.
For the president to act, in the past there had been calls for him to reshuffle the service chiefs, but that was very long in coming. So in the same vein, is he going to act now?
Like I said, in an honorable system, if something like that happens, somebody should go. Either the person is honorable enough to say, look, I have failed, or the president will fire the person. The point I'm making is that, look, our own position is, look, something must be done. We can't just be expressing shocks at leaders. We must just come up clearly and say, okay, this has not worked, and then we have to replace it with something else.
All right, Murtala Ali, former Minister of State for Power and Sec Gen of ACF. Thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you.
Marpa?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Barrister Ismail Ahmed is still here with us, and just wondering, first, if you'd like to respond to what he said, particularly with regards to security, because some people believe that that's part of where your party is going to be judged, during the 2023 elections, more specifically with the Kuje prison break.
These are tough times, and rightly so. I think some people would have to bear the consequences for this atrocious act in the last few weeks. It's simple as that. I think I'm also of the opinion that, the hammer should really come down on some of the people that should bear responsibility for either lack of intelligence gathering on time or acting on it to stop this huge embarrassment that has been going on for far too long. It's inexcusable, some of the things that are happening, especially in the Northwest. There has been considerable improvement in security in the Northeast. And I think that is kudos to the president because of how much attention that has been paid and how much resources has gone down. This president would go down in history as one of the few people that have actually acceded to all the demands of the security chiefs in terms of financial demands and weapons and security equipments and welfare, you name them. But yet, there are still issues that have been lingering on, and probably one hit too many, each one taking you closer to the breaking point. And I think that we are at the breaking point, so there must be consequences for some of these individuals. I think it's as simple as that. I subscribe to that 100%.
It's a fine place to leave it. Barrister Ismail Ahmed is a former national youth leader of the All Progressives Congress, a member of the Board of Trustees of the party, senior special assistant to the President on Special Intervention, and a former aspirant for Senate in Kano Central. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's where we're going to have to wrap it up this morning, but I'm sure that Lagos has just one more thing for us.
Yes, indeed, we've got time for just one more thing.
Let's now rise up for the anthems. Anthems. Let's have the anthems. DJ. Okay.
Wow. We were just as surprised as everybody else watching that, and we thought, what in the world was going on there? But whatever might have happened behind the scenes, that you saw right there didn't come out right. You know, so if there are two MCs, you tell that they will compare notes to be sure, and even if the national anthem, even if the anthem came before when it was supposed to come, but the way it was handled, it left a lot to be desired. And so if the other MC thought proceed with it, while the other MC thought no, stop it, keep the entertainment going on, it sends very mixed signals about how you handle the country, because that symbol, I mean, you see it the world over. When the anthem is being sung, even non-servicemen, you rise your arms on your heart, you face a certain area, but with that, wow.
You know, I've learned over time that, I mean, there are grave sins, really, when it comes to the national anthem, the flag. You don't speak over the national anthem, for example. You don't move around. It's as though you get shot in my mind. So I just pause wherever I'm at.
It's the honor you give to your country.
You know, when the national anthem is on and all of that. So, I mean, things happen, these things happen, confusion and all of that. I mean, at some point, one of them was saying, play the national anthems. And I was thinking, we have just one, right? But it just speaks to the kind of confusion. But I imagine lessons have been learned moving forward, because it's the season, right? And we need to ensure that we handle these things, right? The flag, the anthem, the Naira note, our country as a whole, really.
You know, Kadi, I've once been a State House correspondent, and I'm not going to mention names, but I recall that there are certain officials that don't know the words of the national anthem. And what happened there speaks to our values. It speaks to our priorities. Jimmerlin talked about honor. There's patriotism. There's a sense of pride that you have, as a citizen of a country. And I think going forward, perhaps, this teaching should be incorporated into the educational curricula so that the young ones know that there's a certain sense of pride that should be attached to the national anthem. And it also speaks to the vision that we have, about our country. Little wonder that, Nigerians don't have a sense of belonging to the country. So it is really sad. But lessons have been learned, I believe.
Well, I hope they have been. That's where we should leave it. I hope that they have been, and I sincerely look forward to an explanation for that sort of embarrassing behavior on the sanctity of our national anthem. Well, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun-Yusuf.
I'm Kayode Okikele.
Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Thank you for watching.
I'm Train Balanuso. Have a great day.